Imagine this, the throne room of heaven, the creator of all things seated in unapproachable light. Angels, millions upon millions, singing in perfect harmony. The atmosphere itself trembling with glory. And then, suddenly, into this perfect scene, walks a shadow, a presence that doesn't belong. The enemy of God, the serpent of Eden, the one cast down, Satan. Yes, you heard me right. The Bible tells us that Satan, the very adversary of heaven, appeared before God himself. And not just once. What does that do to your mind? Doesn't that sound almost impossible? How can the ultimate rebel stand in the presence of the ultimate king? But that's exactly what Scripture says. And the moment you grasp why it happened, you'll see your own struggles, your own suffering, your own story in a way you've never seen before. Because this isn't just about Job. This is about you. Welcome to Bible Mysteries. If you're ready to uncover the hidden truths of Scripture, the ones that make you stop, wrestle, and truly see, then don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and click the bell icon. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Try to picture this, the throne of the Almighty, radiant with indescribable brilliance. A sea of glass stretches before him, shimmering like crystal under eternal light. The atmosphere is alive, filled with angelic beings, their voices rising in a chorus so majestic that even human language cannot capture it. The very air pulses with holiness, like creation itself is holding its breath before the author of life. Every movement, every sound in this place testifies to perfection. Nothing is out of order. Nothing resists his reign. This is the central court of the universe, where divine justice and unfathomable love meet in absolute harmony. And then, into this flawless gathering, a figure steps forward, not glowing, not singing, not clothed in holiness. Instead, cloaked in a shadow that no angel shares. A being once known for beauty and brilliance, now warped by pride, bitterness, and rebellion. The adversary, the deceiver, the fallen one, Satan. The mere mention of his name sends a shiver down the spine. Not because he is equal to God, he is not, but because of what he represents. He is the embodiment of rebellion, the personification of accusation, the living echo of, "I will not serve." And there he is, not lurking in darkness, not confined to some distant pit, but standing before God. How does that make sense? How can this traitor, this enemy of truth, step into the place where only purity belongs? How can he, the one who twisted creation's order, walk into the very throne room of the Creator? The book of Job tells us almost casually, one day the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. It's easy to skim past those words, but if you stop and really think about them, they raise some of the most haunting and important questions in Scripture. Why is he there? Why does God allow it? Why isn't he shut out forever? This isn't a back alley in a city at night. This isn't a battlefield where armies clash. This is heaven's courtroom, the highest place of judgment, where the King of Kings presides over all creation. And yet somehow Satan walks in, calmly, deliberately, boldly. Here's the startling truth. Satan's presence is not an intrusion. The Bible doesn't say he snuck in. It doesn't say he disguised himself. It doesn't even suggest he's breaking rules. He appears as if he has a right to be there. That thought alone can shake us, because many of us imagine Satan as banished to a realm far from God, scratching at the gates of heaven but unable to enter. Yet the Scripture here paints a very different picture. He still comes before the Lord, not as a guest, not as a child, but as an accuser. And that's exactly what he is, the accuser, the prosecuting voice in the cosmic courtroom. Think of it like this. The angels gather before God to give account, to present themselves in loyalty and obedience. But when Satan arrives, he doesn't come to worship. He doesn't come to honor. He comes to indict. He comes to point fingers. He comes to question. And if you listen closely to the tone of the story, you'll notice something chilling. Satan's issue isn't just with Job. It's with the very idea that humans can truly love God. His presence in heaven is an attack not just on one man, but on faith itself. But here's the deeper question. Why does God permit it? Why doesn't God silence him the moment he enters? Why not cast him out, end the accusations, and settle the matter with divine finality? And here lies one of the most profound mysteries of Scripture. God allows the accuser to speak, not because God is weak, not because Satan has power over him, but because God is about to reveal something that only confrontation can expose. Now think about this in your own life. Have you ever felt accused? Have you ever sensed that whisper in your mind that says, "You're not enough. You don't really believe. You only love God because things are going well"? That's not just your imagination. That's the same voice that echoed in heaven's court. That's the same strategy Satan used before the throne. Questioning the sincerity of faith, doubting the purity of devotion. Job's story begins in heaven because our struggles don't start where we see them. They begin in places we cannot see. The battlefield is not merely earth, it's spiritual. What plays out in your heart often reflects a drama unfolding in unseen realms. And here's where the hidden truth comes alive. When Satan appears before God, he doesn't just accuse Job, he accuses humanity. He points to us, to our fragile faith, to our dependence, to our weakness, and he says, "They don't love you. They only serve you because of what they get." That's the weight of that heavenly scene. It's not a casual meeting, it's a trial, it's a test. It's the adversary trying to disprove the very possibility of genuine faith. But the very fact that God lets this scene unfold tells us something powerful. Our faith matters more than we realize. Our choices, our endurance, our devotion, even in suffering, carry cosmic significance. Job had no idea his name was spoken in heaven that day. He had no clue his life was about to become the battleground of a cosmic debate. And yet his response to trial would echo through eternity as proof that faith can be real, even when everything is stripped away. So let me turn this back to you. Could it be that your life, your trials, your pain are not meaningless? Could it be that in ways you don't see, your faith is on display before heaven? That the perseverance of your trust in God, even when you don't understand, is silencing the voice of the accuser? That's the unspoken power of this chapter. Satan appeared before God to accuse, but God allowed it because he knew Job's faith would stand. And he knows your faith can stand too. The first chapter of Job isn't just an introduction to suffering, it's a revelation. The battles of earth are often rooted in conversations in heaven. And if Satan dared to stand in God's court as an accuser back then, you can be sure he still whispers accusations now. But here's the hope: you don't stand alone. The same God who allowed Job to be tested is the God who upholds you, strengthens you, and ultimately silences the enemy's accusations with his own righteousness. So there Satan stands, uninvited yet permitted, not as a worshiper, but as a challenger. The heavenly assembly is gathered before the throne, and God himself asks the question that sets the stage for everything to come. Where have you come from? It's not that the Lord doesn't know. God never lacks knowledge. This question is not for information, it's for revelation. It's an invitation for the adversary to expose his own nature. And Satan answers with chilling simplicity, from roaming through the earth, going back and forth in it. Do you hear the undertone? It's casual, almost careless, yet laced with menace. Satan portrays himself as a wanderer, but beneath that statement lies a darker reality. He is surveying, observing, hunting, like a predator pacing the edge of a field, waiting for the right moment to strike. And then in a moment both startling and divine, God himself points to Job. Have you considered my servant Job? God is the one who brings Job into the conversation, not Satan, not the angels. God. Why would he do that? Why would he highlight Job, a man righteous, faithful, and devoted, and place him directly in the line of Satan's gaze? Because God knows something the accuser cannot comprehend. Genuine faith exists. True devotion is real. Job's love for God is not an illusion. It's unshakable, and now it will be proven. But Satan doesn't see it that way. He scoffs at the idea. Listen to his accusation. Does Job fear God for nothing? Haven't you put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands, so his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. But stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. There it is, the strategy laid bare. Satan reduces Job's devotion to nothing more than self-interest. According to him, Job doesn't love God. Job loves the gifts. He doesn't serve out of loyalty, he serves out of convenience. Can you feel the venom in that charge? It's not just aimed at Job, it's aimed at the very heart of humanity. Satan is claiming that no one truly loves God, that worship is always transactional, that every act of faith is just a mask hiding selfish motives. In one breath, he calls all of humanity into question. And this is what makes his strategy so powerful. He doesn't accuse Job of lying, stealing, or committing some hidden sin. He doesn't point to a moral failure. Instead, he attacks the very foundation of Job's relationship with God. He attacks the motive. Because if you can prove that love isn't real, then faith crumbles. If you can convince the universe that devotion is just disguised self-interest, then the entire framework of God's relationship with mankind collapses. That's the brilliance and the darkness of Satan's approach. How many times in your own life has that same question echoed in your mind? Do I love God, or do I just love his blessings? Am I faithful because of who he is, or because of what I receive? That's the whisper of the accuser. It's subtle. It doesn't shout. It plants doubt. It makes you question whether your devotion is genuine or conditional. And here's the remarkable thing. God allows the challenge. He permits Job to become the case study for the universe. Why? Because when faith is tested, its authenticity shines brighter than ever. When devotion is stripped of comfort, it reveals its true depth. Think of it like fire. Gold placed in the furnace doesn't disintegrate, it emerges refined. In the same way, faith exposed to trial doesn't vanish, it becomes purer. Satan's strategy is accusation. God's strategy is revelation. Satan points to doubt. God points to proof. But don't miss the tension here. The heavenly courtroom is watching. The angels are witnesses. The unseen world leans in as the adversary hurls his challenge. Take away Job's blessings, and he will curse you. And God responds with sovereign calm. Very well then, everything he has is in your power. But on the man himself, do not lay a finger. Do you see the boundaries? Satan has power, but only within limits. He cannot act beyond what God permits. Even in the midst of accusation, God remains in control. This is vital. Satan's strategy is to accuse, but he cannot operate independently. He is always on a leash. That means no trial in your life escapes God's awareness. No hardship happens without boundaries set by divine wisdom. That doesn't make the pain less real. Job's losses will be devastating. His suffering will shake him to his core. But even in the worst of it, the story whispers a truth we need to cling to. God allows testing not to destroy faith, but to display it. And here's where this chapter speaks directly into your life. When struggles hit, when blessings fade, when life feels stripped bare, what voice do you hear? Is it the voice of the accuser saying, "See, you don't really love God, you're just clinging to comfort"? Or is it the whisper of the Spirit reminding you, your faith is being proven genuine, more precious than gold refined in fire? The strategy of the enemy hasn't changed. He still roams the earth, still prowls, still accuses. But his accusations can only stand if faith collapses, and faith collapses only when we believe the lie that love for God is conditional. That's the hidden battle unfolding in the story of Job. It's not just about one man's suffering, it's about the credibility of faith itself. God on his throne, radiant and immovable. The angels leaning forward in silence. Satan with words dripping with cynicism, claiming no human truly loves God without reward. And Job, unaware his name is on the lips of heaven, about to walk through a trial that will shake the ages. This is the accuser's strategy: to redefine worship as selfishness, to reduce devotion to transaction, to erase the possibility of unconditional love. But what Satan underestimates is this: true faith doesn't depend on circumstances. True love doesn't require payment. And when Job refuses to curse God, When his lips still utter praise in the ashes, the accuser's strategy crumbles. And the same can be true for you. When you choose to keep trusting, even when everything falls apart, you are proving the enemy wrong. You are living evidence that faith is real, that devotion is authentic, that God is worthy, not because of what he gives, but because of who he is. Satan may enter the courtroom, but the final verdict belongs to God. The scene changes. The heavenly court falls silent. The words of Satan echo in the halls of eternity, and God's permission hangs like a decree across unseen realms. Now imagine Job. On earth, he has no clue about what just happened in heaven. He isn't aware that his name was spoken in divine chambers. He doesn't know that a cosmic debate is unfolding over the purity of his faith. He simply lives his life as he always has. Faithful, prayerful, diligent, compassionate. Job rises early to pray for his children, offering sacrifices just in case they might have sinned in their hearts. His fields thrive, his flocks multiply. His servants are busy with the abundance of his household. To anyone watching, Job is the picture of success, the perfect example of a man blessed because he fears God. But unseen forces are moving. Darkness stirs on the horizon. The accuser, with malicious determination, sets his plan in motion. The first blow strikes suddenly. A servant rushes to Job with trembling words. The oxen were plowing and the donkeys were grazing nearby, and the Sabaeans attacked and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. Before the shock can even register, another messenger arrives, panting, eyes wide with terror. The fire of God fell from the heavens and burned up the sheep and the servants, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. Job barely has time to process the loss when yet another voice shouts, "The Chaldeans formed 3 raiding parties and swept down on your camels and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." And then, the final crushing blow. Your sons and daughters were feasting at the oldest brother's house, when suddenly a mighty wind swept in from the desert and struck the 4 corners of the house. It collapsed on them, and they are dead. I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. Do you feel the weight of that moment? In a single day, Job loses everything: wealth, livelihood, security, reputation, legacy. But above all, he loses his children. One messenger after another, like waves crashing on fragile sand, stripping away everything that anchored his life. The possessions could be replaced. The servants mourned, yes. But his children, the ones he prayed for, sacrificed for, protected with intercession, gone. This is not just tragedy. This is devastation. And what makes it more haunting is this. Job has no idea why. He doesn't know about the conversation in heaven. He doesn't see the accuser smirking in the shadows. All he sees is disaster, inexplicable, merciless, overwhelming. Now pause here, because this is where the story cuts into the human heart. Have you ever had a season where losses piled up so quickly that you couldn't even catch your breath? Where one hardship collided with another until you wondered if the universe itself was against you? Job's world crumbled in hours, but instead of explanation, he faced silence. And this is where the hidden truth of suffering emerges. Sometimes trials are not punishment, but proof. Sometimes the fire you walk through is not God's rejection, but God's demonstration that your faith is real. So what does Job do? How does he respond when everything he loves is ripped from him? The text says, "At this Job got up and tore his robe and shaved his head. Then he fell to the ground in worship and said, 'Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised.'" Do you hear that? Job grieves, he tears his robe, he shaves his head, he falls to the ground. This is no cold acceptance. This is raw anguish. But even in the pit of despair, worship rises. Even through tears, praise escapes his lips. This is the moment that silences the accuser. This is the evidence heaven was waiting for. Job does not curse God. Job does not turn away. Job clings in agony to the one he cannot understand. But let's go deeper. Notice how Job responds. He doesn't deny his pain. He doesn't pretend it doesn't hurt. He grieves openly. Faith is not about faking strength. It's about holding on when strength is gone. And here's where this story hits home for us. You may have been told that true believers should never cry, never question, never feel broken. But Job shows us the opposite. He tore his robe. He fell on the ground. His heart shattered. And yet, in the middle of all that grief, his faith held steady. That's the paradox of real devotion. You can cry and still trust. You can hurt and still worship. You can be broken and still believe. Now think about this. Satan's strategy was to prove that Job's faith was shallow, that his devotion was bought with blessings, that without wealth and family, Job would crumble and curse. But when Job worships in the ashes, the entire strategy collapses. What Satan underestimated was love. He couldn't comprehend it. He couldn't imagine someone serving God simply because God is worthy. He believed everything must be transactional, but Job's worship proved otherwise. And so the heavenly court has its answer. Humanity is capable of true faith. Love for God can exist without reward. But here's the sobering truth. This was only the beginning. Because when Satan's first plan fails, he returns. He isn't finished. The accuser still believes he can break Job, still insists that suffering will expose weakness. And so another chapter of testing is about to unfold. Satan may strike, storms may come, losses may pile up. But your response in the ashes matters more than you can imagine. Job's cry of faith didn't just echo on earth. It thundered in heaven. It silenced accusations. It proved that love can survive loss. And maybe that's the hidden reason you're walking through your storm. Maybe heaven is watching. Maybe the accuser has whispered lies about your faith. And maybe your endurance, your continued worship in pain, is declaring something greater than you realize. The heavenly assembly gathers again before the Almighty, radiant and awe-inspiring. But among them stands a shadow familiar to us now. The adversary has returned. He failed in his first attempt to dismantle faith, but defeat does not quench his malice. The accuser steps forward, carrying fresh venom, and the Lord begins, as he did before, a question. Where have you come from? Again, Satan answers with unsettling calm. From roaming through the earth, going back and forth in it. Satan prowls. He scans humanity, searching, observing, measuring hearts. He is restless, never satisfied, always watching. His presence here again reveals that the challenge is far from over. Then God, in his confidence, draws attention once more to his servant Job. Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. And he still maintains his integrity, though you incited me against him to ruin him without cause. God celebrates Job's endurance. He highlights Job's resilience, Job's unwavering devotion. Despite catastrophic losses, possessions, livelihood, children, Job has not cursed God. He has not abandoned faith. He remains upright in the ashes. But the adversary sneers. His pride cannot accept defeat. His voice rises with fresh accusation. Skin for skin. A man will give all he has for his own life, but stretch out your hand and strike his flesh and bones, and he will surely curse you to your face. This is Satan's new strategy. If loss of wealth and family could not break Job, then surely suffering in his own body will. The accuser believes self-preservation outweighs every other instinct. He insists that pain, relentless and personal, will expose the limits of Job's devotion. Do you see how the tactic escalates? First, Satan attacked Job's possessions, things external, replaceable. Next, he destroyed relationships, the very people Job loved most. Yet Job's heart still clung to God. Now Satan sharpens his attack and goes for Job's very flesh. If faith cannot be destroyed from the outside, perhaps it will collapse when the body itself is racked with agony. God responds with calm authority. Very well then, he is in your hands, but you must spare his life. Once again, boundaries are drawn. The enemy is permitted to afflict but not to kill. Satan is powerful, but never sovereign. He moves only within limits set by the Lord. Now picture the scene shifting from heaven back to earth. Job, still mourning, unaware of the debate in heaven, begins to feel pain gnawing at his body. The text says, Satan afflicted him with painful sores from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head. Imagine that. Every step unbearable, every movement agony. The man once respected at the city gate, honored by neighbors, now sits in ashes, scraping himself with broken pottery to find momentary relief. This is humiliation. This is torment. This is the enemy's attempt to grind him down until faith disintegrates. And in the middle of this suffering, Job's own wife speaks words that echo the accuser's strategy. Are you still maintaining your integrity? Curse God and die. Think about how piercing that must have been. The voice of despair comes not from a stranger, but from his closest companion. The enemy has found another mouth to deliver his message. Her grief, her anger, her anguish spill out in words that align with Satan's accusation. But Job replies with quiet strength, "You are talking like a foolish woman. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble?" And then the text adds this remarkable line, "In all this, Job did not sin in what he said." Job's body is broken, his heart is crushed, his reputation is gone. His wife urges him to surrender, to give up faith. Yet even in torment, he does not curse God. He refuses to validate the accuser's claim. This is more than resilience, it's revelation. Job proves what Satan cannot comprehend, that true devotion is not a bargain, that genuine love does not collapse under pain, that faith can endure, even when flesh itself rebels. Now step back and see the bigger picture. Why does Satan appear before God a second time? Because the first accusation failed, but the pattern reveals something essential. The enemy will not relent easily. When one tactic fails, he shifts to another. When possessions cannot shake faith, he strikes relationships. When relationships hold firm, he targets the body. The accuser will always press deeper, hoping to find the breaking point. And yet, in every stage, God's boundaries remain. Satan operates, but only under divine permission, which means no suffering arrives unfiltered by God's sovereignty. That truth does not erase the pain, but it reframes it. Job's agony was not meaningless. It became testimony. And so, the story of Job reminds us of something far greater than suffering itself. That even when the enemy stands in heaven's court to accuse, even when loss and pain press in from every side, faith can still stand. Job's life proved that love for God is not built on blessings, but on trust that survives the fire. So when you walk through trials, remember, your worship in the ashes is louder than the accuser's voice. Heaven hears it, God sees it, and your endurance becomes living proof that the adversary is wrong and that true devotion is unbreakable. That is the hidden truth behind why Satan appeared before God. To accuse, yes, but also, ultimately, to be silenced by the power of faithful love.